Superman is one of the most iconic heroes of all time, and at the start, he was created to be the very strongest of them all. This version of Superman was so powerful that he could sneeze an entire solar system away. It was a weird time in comics. Then, DC Comics was like, this made Superman much less powerful. And yet, over the years, Superman has started to move back into the absurdness of the pre-crisis. Now, as you might have guessed, I'm not a big fan of things that can't be measured and can't be quantified by plausible numbers. So, today, we're going to take a look at some of Superman's greatest feats and quantify them with actual numbers. Hello Internet, Jojo here, and welcome to Idea Shock. Today, we got some DC on the chopping block. Wow, it's actually been a long time since I did a DC video. Before we get into it, let me just tell you how this video came about. I was researching and editing a video, and a question popped into my head. Is Superman stronger than Green Lantern? So, I googled the obvious, Superman versus Green Lantern. And that answered my question. This question then led me to wondering how strong Superman actually is. So, in this video we're just going to discuss Superman's physical lifting strength, and we'll get into his other abilities in different videos. I'm splitting his abilities into different segments, because if I was to try to discuss all his powers and abilities in one video, I would definitely miss some major feats, and I don't want that. If any of you guys out there know any feats for Superman that you want measured, let me know in the comments and I'll take a look at it. The first major feat of Superman's strength that we're going to talk about today is when he lifted up the Specter. The Specter is a being that is literally made up of eternity. This panel describes both Wonder Woman and Superman as two of the mightiest beings in the universe, and then goes on to say that the weight of the Specter is almost too heavy for them. This means that they did in fact lift him. So, this leads to the obvious question, how heavy is the Specter? Because both 1D and Old Boy Scout had difficulties lifting him, we can make a good guess and assume that at minimum he weighs more than a planet. However, that's not ever stated. What is stated in this panel is that he is made of eternity and that eternity is heavy. The skeptic's best guess is that he gets heavier the more someone attempts to lift him. Very similar to how Thor's hammer Mjolnir works. This means that theoretically, Spectre can weigh infinity, but would require infinite force pulling him up. But of course, much like Thor's hammer, if a person can lift him faster than he can add mass to his body, then he should be able to be lifted. Okay, we got all that set up, now we just need to know how fast he can add mass. Right, he's made of eternity. He should have plenty of time to add infinite mass. And yet Superman and Wonder Woman have lifted him. This is critical evidence in support of the idea that Superman is actually able to lift eternity. But let's say that there is something unsaid like, only he who is worthy may lift the Spectre. Kinda like Thor's hammer. This makes no sense, but let's just assume that. This does mean that there's no way to find out how much Superman actually lifted here. So let's just kinda sweep this under the rug and move on to the next feat. The Book of Infinite Pages is described as having an infinite number of pages that reside in the same physical space and time. A lot of people debunk this feat because they refuse to believe that the same guy who can sneeze a solar system away, pull hundreds of planets on a chain, and in the current storyline can break Green Lantern constructs. And we all know how stupidly overpowered those constructs are. For those of you who don't know, you can check out my video here. So, yeah, Superman lifting infinity, even in the current timeline, is not that crazy. Now, one argument that I saw debunking this stated that because there was only 130 million books that has ever been written in the entire world, and the average book weighs 12 ounces, this feat comes out to Superman lifting the equivalent of 50,000 US tons. This is tiny in comparison to, say, pulling a planet, something that he has canonically done. However, let me remind you something that is so simple that it is ridiculous to forget. In DC Comics, The entire DC universe has sentient life, not just Earth. For the sake of argument, let's say that there's only one intelligent life on one planet per solar system, even though we do know for a fact that there are usually several intelligent species in each solar system. According to NASA, there are 200 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy and 100 billion galaxies in the universe. Taking into account that the DC universe is 10 billion times larger, we can find that there are 200 nonillion stars in the universe. As we said before, we'll be conservative and say that there is only one intelligent species per system. Using that logic, Superman is lifting 10 undecillion US tons. Now, this would be the end, but this book also includes information from the entire multiverse. How many universes are there in DC? I feel like we've seen this number somewhere. Hold on, tip of my tongue. Let's see. Let's use the highest numbered universe that has been named. According to Wikipedia, this is Earth 9603, also known as the Amalgam Universe. Using this brings the total weight that Superman lifted up to 96 duodecillion US tons. We then need to divide this in half. Doing this, we find that the minimum that Superman is lifting is 48 duodecillion tons. This is actually 4 quintillion times more weight required that he pulled when he pulled the Earth out of orbit. So, there you go. For those of you who don't like to believe that this book has infinite weight, here is an actual number that is based on math and science. This is also a very low number, though I do actually feel pretty bad about excluding planets like Mars from the calculation, even though we know that was an incredibly advanced civilization. This book is also equated to have a conscious, living void with the entire DC multiverse growing inside it. The total weight of our own universe, according to the National Solar Observatory, is 60 cedicillion kilograms, or 66 quindecillion US tons of matter. Multiplying this by the same number of universes that we used previously, and we can find that Superman and Shazam are lifting a total of 635 cedicillion US tons. This is also not accounting for the fact that the DC universe is 10 billion times larger than our own. If we were to account for that, the weight comes up to 6.35 vigintillion US tons. Of course, these feats are somewhat debatable, but let's discuss the feats that we know are fact. In Superman Volume 3, number 13, Superman is shown to lift 5.972 sextillion metric tons, and he's apparently been doing this for 5 days straight. We don't know how he's moving the weight, or whether he's just holding it in place, but we can make a good guess of about an average of 1 repetition per hour. Multiplying this by the 5 days, and using Boyd Elpy's 1985 formula, we can find that Superman's 1 repetition max is 29 septillion metric kilograms, or 29 sextillion metric tons. This is an absolute minimum number that he can lift, as he even asks if they can add more weight, and they couldn't. Next up is when Superman held a black hole in his hand. This black hole appears to be about 1 inch in radius. Plugging that into the Schwarzschild radius calculator, we can find that the mass of this black hole is the same as 2.864 Earths, or 37 septillion pounds. This black hole would have a gravity that is 180 quadrillion times greater than Earth's gravity. This means that Superman had to have the strength to carry 2.864 Earths while keeping his hand in a perfect vacuum as to not get sucked into the black hole, while keeping his hand tight enough to keep it from expanding. The final feat for this video is when Superman actually got into a fight with Thor. During this fight, Superman actually caught a direct swing from Mjolnir. In Sigma vs. Ultron, Death Battle concluded that Thor could hit with 68 quadrillion teratons of TNT. This is absurd. This means that at best, Superman can output the same energy that Thor used to break a planet. These are just a few of the many absurd feats that Superman has done, and has been shown to accomplish. And this is not even mentioning that he's gone toe-to-toe with the embodiment of tyranny itself, Darkseid. It's still canon that Darkseid has all his pre-crisis powers, and Superman has actually beaten him several times. The current post-crisis Superman might actually be comparable or even stronger than pre-crisis, but that's a video topic for a different day. This is all absurd. But what do you expect? This is a DC character after all. They do stupid stuff. With that said, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time. Remember to stay spectacular. JoJo out.